I think it's important to start this one off because it's going to be divisive with a couple of statements. One, I like Jordan Peterson, and I don't care if that offends you.
Oh, so
Too
you're a
bad.
Nazi.
Well, clearly I am, yes. Very clearly.
We're
Even though,
talking today about how Jordan Peterson is the reincarnation of Hitler.
do you have a gun to your head?
No.
Oh, well, the thing is, a lot of people apparently would agree with you because in Ta-Nehisi Coates' new Captain America comic, which, again, just shows why comics aren't even really mostly worth reading anymore, sadly, he has painted Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, a professor who has really talked about a lot of harmless stuff about how political correctness taken too far is not a good thing. It actually hurts society, who is talking about how people need to find where they fit in and find what makes them happy.
How to better your life. Especially he talks to young men.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh, that's bad? I think young men, they need good role models because a lot of young men these days are kind of growing up without very good role models, in my opinion.
But here's the thing, Jill. I gotta stop you right here. That was very silly of you. You've got a lot of internalized masculinity oppression there because young men, despite the fact that even if they are white and they probably have almost no money, tons of student debt, they barely can afford the apartment that they live in unless they happen to have a rich parent that hands them stuff, which is extremely rare, actually. Despite the fact that they can barely get by on their own, they're the oppressors, so they don't deserve any help.
I hate that ideology.
Well, that's why these people are so angry, and that's what we're talking about today, because at the end of the day, I don't care what you believe on this channel. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. I don't care if you're socialist. I don't care if you are apolitical completely. I don't care if you are a member of the Green Party. I don't care if you are religious, non-religious, anti-religious, anything like that. As long as you're not a dick, I don't care.
I'm actually a part of the Purple Party.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm actually a part of the all K-pop women are waifus party.
I'm also a part of that
It's
party.
a very popular one. In the new issue of Captain America, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who many of you may know, hopefully you don't, because his writing is just literal cancer. All he talks about is race and power dynamics, and that's it. To him, that's all that the world seems to be about for some reason. There's nothing else to what he has to say at all that I've ever found. Decided to put Jordan Peterson, a fairly harmless figure, in the comic as the Red Skull. And it's very obvious that he is the Red Skull. We even have, young men watching Red Skull's movement, which is about the 10 Rules for Life, which is a direct parody, very obviously, on the 12 Rules for Life book that Dr. Jordan B. Peterson wrote, along with things like Chaos and Order, which ties directly into Jordan's teachings, Carl Luger's Genius, which is basically he's pointing out Carl Luger is a Nazi. Like this sort of thing where it's like, oh, well, obviously, if Jordan B. Peterson is Red Skull and Red Skull is a Nazi, what's Jordan B. Peterson? And that's the problem that I talked to you about, Jill. You and I, we don't get super into politics on this channel. That's not the point of this video. The point's just about how far comics have fallen in a lot of these, writers and who they're given to just for no reason. Comic books being tossed to people like Zoe Quinn or Ta-Nehisi Coates. He is directly drawing comparisons between this academic in real life and Nazism. They go on to, there's a discussion between Captain America, here, I have to pull it up, where essentially he mentions that, it's the same for all of them. Young men, weak, looking for purpose. I found the flag. You found the badge. He's talking to a police officer. They found the skull. He tells them what they've always wanted to hear, that they are secretly great, that the whole world is against them, that if they're truly men, they'll fight back. And bingo, that's their purpose. That's what they live for. And that's what they'll die for. Now, is politics in comics really the worst thing? No, absolutely not. Some of the best comics ever written, I think, have been political, actually. Mm-hmm. Dark Knight Returns is a lot about fascism, abuse of power by the government, essentially the idea that sometimes the common man can do more than a massive superpower can. Watchmen is very, very, very political. I think it's one of, if not the best graphic novels ever written. What's the difference between those and this? They're smart.
Yeah, they're well written. Their points are much more heavy and easier to, relate to. And they're not, feeling like this person who wrote this is just kind of feeling like he's shoving his views onto us, whereas those other comic books, they feel like they're kind of teaching you in a way.
Or exposing you to a new idea.
Yeah, or just they're like showing, not telling, whereas this guy is telling.
Right, and also the other difference between them is I would argue they're not disingenuous. You know? I would argue that as left as Alan Moore is, he is not actually sitting there, you know, like trying to be disingenuous, trying to lie. I would argue that Ta-Nehisi Coates, in my opinion, his whole thing with how he's written everything is to tell you why your view is wrong and his view is right if you disagree with him. You know, that's a little different, I think. Alan Moore in interviews, yeah, he's much more certainly like that. And I'd say his writing now, a lot worse than it was, is a lot more like that because as he became an old man, I think he got a little crazy. But, you know, when he was a younger man writing this stuff, it was very subtle and interesting and well written. This is not. This is defamation of character, I would say. You know, where it's like saying, hey, you're a Nazi. This would be like if I disagreed with Slickmoff or Podcast Now on something and I wrote a book where I wrote them in as the leader of Russia, or I wrote them in as a mass murderer, or I wrote them in as, you know, the dictator of Korea or something.
And you said that to me yesterday, that thinking, like, you kind of explained tribalism to me, and that's kind of what you said, with it being like, can you help me explain it?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted me to let you explain it.
No, I can't explain it correctly.
Well, tribalism is the idea that everyone belongs to a different group. You know, I mean, it's an idea that goes back all the way to where human beings, you know, first came into existence and started to form groups and form societies on a smaller scale and defend themselves from outside forces. So the idea was I might be in a group over here and we'll call them the Flashlight group, the Flashlight tribe, and you might be in a group over there and you might be in the Fruit Punch tribe. And because you're not a member of the Flashlight tribe and you're a member of the Fruit Punch tribe, you're my enemy. Unless we at some point form some kind of alliance against a greater evil, or because we provide something to each other, we will stay enemies because you're a member of a different group. I believe that Ta-Nehisi Coates and a lot of the people like him, all of their writing and all of their ideas are just about this. They're about tribalism. They're about, I'm a member of this group, you're not. This is why we're not going to get along. This is why I disagree with you. This is why you're bad. And that's the issue with this is, let's say you label yourself something. You know, Antifa's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you label yourself anti-fascist and someone's against your ideas, what does that make them to you?
A fascist?
Yeah. If I call myself an anti-Yahtzee, you know, like that's just my thing. What is someone who disagrees with how I do things? Even if I say I'm anti-Yahtzee and like my whole thing is I go around and I punch babies. But I say I'm anti-Yahtzee. If you disagree with me, to me, you're a Yahtzee. You know? That's the problem with these labels and this tribalism and all this stuff. It's made it very easy for comic books to fall into the same trap of they don't make as much money anymore. So they bring in divisive figures like Ta-Nehisi Coates or Zoe Quinn, who in my opinion, her contributions to, if you can even call them that, to the landscape of discussion led to a man's suicide directly. Look up Alec Hawaka if you want to know what I'm talking about, because it's really dark and fucked up. They will bring in these people who are very divisive because the name will sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would argue it doesn't really even sell that much because mostly they just get outrage people saying, like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
And calling it out and making videos like this. Like, I bet together all the money made off of all the videos about this have made more money than this issue will.
Probably.
Especially when you include people talking about it like the Quartering or Yellow Flash or any of these other guys. I'm sure Young Ripa is going to talk about it. There's a lot of people like who are like anti-PC, anti-politically correct, who will talk about this and make just a boatload of money off of it. I think it's worth mentioning that I personally, because someone will say, well, you know who those people are and you support Jordan Peterson, you must be a Yahtzee, you must be far right. I would argue that I'm very much moderately in the middle. I mean, like, I would say that there's a lot of things I agree with on one side and a lot I agree with on the other. I find tribalism stupid.
You're also not somebody who's about to be like, oh, let's murder all the Jews, which I think very much so separates you from being...
Well, that's the problem, is they're painting Jordan Peterson almost like that.
But
like,
he isn't like that. He wants people to be equal, which annoys me. That it annoys me when people paint you to be something that you're not, especially if you're somebody who's fighting for like a similar thing that they are, like equality, but because your views differ slightly, they want to tell you that you are somebody who wants to hurt everyone instead.
I had this happen to me.
I don't like that at all.
I've actually had this happen to me a lot of times. Anytime I speak out about something that's, like, I would say too far on one side of the aisle, people call me the other thing. Mm-hmm. I would say that every time that I've talked about someone who's like Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I'd argue is almost militantly racial, and I say that's a bad idea, people have called me racist.
Yeah, but you're not.
Well, when I talked about how young men don't need to feel like they're alone if they've gone through domestic abuse because no one will talk to young men about it, I had a subset of people calling me a misogynist.
Please.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's very easy to paint anyone who disagrees with you as evil. It's one of the easiest things to do.
I think it's just an idiotic way of thinking, though. Thinking that just because somebody's talking about one thing makes them, you know, a part of some horrible group. When there's not, the entire world's not black and white. There's a big gray area, and I've learned that more as I've gotten older, and I wish more people realized that. And also, I wanted to mention that this sort of thing in this comic book talking about Jordan B. Peterson being a Nazi, and they're very like, not to say having liberal views is bad, but like having such forward views in this kind of comic, they're not kind of directing it at the demographic who's going to read it.
No, that is the thing. That's the crux of it, too, and I would have missed that if you didn't mention that. They've been doing this forever. This is why comic book sales have tanked in a lot of ways, along with the rise of digital media and movies and games and all this stuff, right? You know, as those have become bigger, comic book readers are disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Why would a young conservative read this book? And I'm just saying, and you can say, well, I don't want them to. Okay, then you don't want their money.
Yeah.
So shut the hell up when your thing shuts down. That's the same thing here. You know, I seriously say it and I mean it. If you are far left, far right, somewhere in the middle, you have a place here. I want to hear what you think. I'm not just saying that. If I disagree with you, don't be butthurt about it. And if you disagree with me, I won't either unless you're a dick.
And everyone should have a place in those comics too. Whereas, you know, young men entirely, they're mostly the demographic for these comics. And if you're kind of writing about this stuff and not superheroes fighting evil, which is what the demographic wants, then you're not going to get sales.
Right, yeah, that's the thing, too. I mean, it also, too, what you said, if you think that, let's even throw young out. Let's just say men. Let's say men predominantly buy comics. There's numbers to back that up. They do. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It's why it's so hard to find a gamer GF. It's why it's so hard to find, you know, a girl who's into comics and loves all the same stuff as you. It doesn't mean they're not. But the same way us guys were treated 20 years ago, you know, like, oh, you're nerdy for liking that stuff. Girls are still treated that way.
Yeah.
For being into comics and superheroes and stuff. They have the landscape now that young men had back then, where it's like, oh, you like Captain America? I'm going to shove you in a locker. That kind of thing, except
I cannot
it's more
tell
subtle.
you how many times I was made fun of in school for liking things like that, you know? So I just kind of kept it to myself.
Yeah.
But I love things like comics and superheroes and all of that.
And that's what I'm saying, too, is like, if that demographic is mainly at young men, because, you know, like you said, right here, it is a little harder for women to get into this stuff, and I think that's a fair thing to say. Pretty crazy thing for me to say for a misogynist, to give women the benefit of the doubt. I must be a pretty bad misogynist. But, you know, if that's really the demographic, then why would you target that demographic? So, like, imagine this. Imagine if I started every video unironically like, hey, you bunch of morons. How y'all doing? You're all idiotic. I hate all of you. I hope you all die. To my subscribers. One, I don't feel that way.
Nobody would watch you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, if I hate the people who support me, why are they going to support me? All that does is demoralize them. It makes them feel bad. It makes them not want to be interested. We can see comic book sales over the years have tanked. They are going down, down, down. But, you know what? It's so hilarious to me how people will always say, well, it's just because of, you know, digital media. Guess what? It's not. Manga sales are through the frickin' roof. Both
people
in here,
love reading books.
Yeah, they do.
Especially graphic novels.
Yeah, and not enough people read, but, like, if you think about it, in America and, like, there are books in Japan alone that outsell global American comics, you know? Like, it is insane. Like, America is so much bigger than Japan. But there are mangas in Japan that outsell every comic book here. There are mangas in Japan like Demon Slayer that will outsell, like, all of the top, 50 comic books combined for that week.
Because they're good and they're well written and people like them and people want to go into a store and pick out that book and be like, I'm going to open this and I'm going to read it all tonight. And that's what I want for more people. I love books and I want more people to pick up a comic or pick up a graphic novel and be like, I can't wait to read all of this. But if we have low quality things like this, people aren't going to want to buy them and read them anymore, and people aren't going to be as interested as they used to be in books.
If you want to see a channel that talks very much in depth about this, which I would say is neither left nor right leaning, Clownfish TV is a really good channel that talks about this all the time. I'd love to work with them.
Are we being paid for this
at some point? No. I'm just saying, like, I really like them. I've listened to them for a long time, and they've talked a lot about comic books. It's not just this, by the way. Yes, it is the political stuff. Absolutely. Like constantly shoving down caricatures instead of characters, constantly pushing like a far ideology instead of something moderate, instead of spoon feeding ideas. You're basically making someone deep throat them, like you're just jamming them down their throat wholeheartedly, like with no buy-in from that person. And despite all that, also the art sucks now. Like a lot of the artists in comic books are horrible now.
Yeah.
Yes, you still definitely have people like Jim Lee. You have people obviously like I'm blanking off the top of my head. Todd McFarlane. These old guys who are still around. Sorry, you're not that old, but I'm just saying from older comics. But the new people, a lot of the new people. The point is, like, a
lot of the new people can't get the proportions right. They can't get the faces right. Their art is just objectively bad. They probably didn't even go to a very good art school.
if they even did.
Even did.
And that's the thing, is these are the new generation of writers and and artists you're getting in, is writers like Coates, who just want to talk about what they believe and nothing else. They don't want to tell a story outside of that. They just want to talk about how I perceive racial division this way in the country, therefore everything's going to be about it. Or people like, artists like, I don't want to really pick on it. I'm not going to use a specific example. I have specific examples. I don't really want to pick on
Why don't you just say Small Dick Magoo?
No. There is a artist who made a Wonder Woman comic book. I don't even remember what it was called off the top of my head. It was from just a few months back, and the cover of it was awful. And it was very clearly designed to make Wonder Woman look thicker, like more in proportion with probably what the author's body is like. And we've seen that a lot. We've also seen this book recently, and I'm sorry I'm blanking on the name. I'll just show these examples. They're public works. These people should be able to handle criticism. Mm-hmm. Another one too was where someone did a book about Starfire's daughter, and she's short and she's kind of rotund and all this stuff, instead of Starfire, who's like a freaking supermodel.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm short and rotund, and that's fine. I think having representation like that for girls like me is wonderful in comics. But you got to put it in the right places.
And not just have it be a representation of you only. Like, a lot of times it's this author will go in like, I feel fat, or I feel not seen because of how I looked. I'm going to make this character be me.
They're putting their insecurities into their art.
You can't always do that. It's so obvious. Look, I have insecurities. I sometimes have a hard time dealing with criticism. People have noticed that. There's times in the comments where someone will say something douchey, and I'll be douchey back to them. Probably shouldn't be. That's a little insecure and unnecessary.
Sometimes people hurt your feelings and you tell me about it, and then I go beat them up.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't take their kneecaps and sell them on Etsy. What?
It's official Etsy shout out, official Etsy merch in bio. It's just one of those things that's very frustrating. It's not that you can't have insecurities or anything, but these people who do this stuff is the same type of people who mocked Jordan Peterson when he got addicted to opioids, or opiates, I don't know the exact term, which he had to take, for a medical reason, and then had a hard time getting off. And guess what? As someone who's on a controlled substance for depression and anxiety, that's very hard to just cut off.
Yeah.
Like, if I stopped taking my meds, I'd probably be fine for a day or two. Then I'd get the shakes and I'd get sweaty. I'd be real angry. Like, I'm on an actual controlled substance because I need it medically.
Not only that, but you also take a ton of medication for chronic pain and stuff too.
And this isn't really stuff to be mocked, I don't think. And also, it's very ironic to me that the same people who want to make drug addicts a protected class, and act like, oh, well, they're just sick. They just need help. They just need this and that. Are the same people mocking Jordan Peterson for getting addicted to a drug.
For
Which
getting
is
sick,
it?
you know?
Which is it? You know what I mean? Is it are druggies just these like evil bottom feeders scum? And that's the problem that I have with this at the end
Or
of the
are they people who need help?
Yeah, and that's the problem I have with this at the end of the day, and I've talked to you about it before. A lot of these people, they want to help you as far as they can use you, and that's it. And it's that way on every side of the political aisle.
Yeah, you told me it was more of a transaction.
Yeah.
To get votes and money.
Yeah.
Rather than helping because of the goodness in your heart. And I've always been the type of person who wants to help people because of the goodness of my heart.
Humble brag.
No, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying that it kind of offends me when people use that good intention for furthering themselves.
Yeah.
It makes me upset because I, as someone who believes in God, I want people to want to take care of each other and love each other and
well, that's pretty
help each
awful.
other.
Did you know that back during the Crusades, Christians murdered people? Therefore, you are an oppressor for believing in that same God. Also,
Guess you're an oppressor too.
Also, you're white.
Oh no!
By the way, you to that hashtag you whitey.
Wait, nobody's seen my face on this channel yet. I'm not white.
Cracker.
I'm not white.
It's all so silly to me. Everything has become so much about groups and stuff, and it's like, you know, there's one group that should be thought about, and I don't want to sound like a globalist, but it is humanity. You know, we are all one group. To point at someone and say, hey, look, a black man, or hey, look, a white girl, or hey, look, an Asian American woman. That's not helpful. Like, I'm not saying that you can't write those things down on your medical history, because yes, they can matter. You know, there's a lot of like, a lot of people that have come from Africa are more likely to be affected by certain medications. They actually tell you that in commercials and everything. That's fine to write down, and it's fine to be proud of your heritage. I think if you're white and you're proud of being white from Scandinavia or from Norway or whatever, props to you. If you're black and you're proud of being black from Africa or from any other place in the world, you know, where you came from, good for you. If you're Chinese and you're proud of Chinese history and you came to America or you still live in China, good for you. But this idea that, like, anyone who's against me is Hitler, it's so childish. It's
wrong.
It's wrong. It's childish. It's the most juvenile thing ever. This is how 4-year-olds think. Is you're against me in one issue, you must be awful. That's how 4-year-olds think. And even they know better.
Yeah.
And you're talking about grown men and women who are writing crap down in these comics and in all these other works who don't know better than a 4-year-old.
And comics have kind of gone down the toilet now.
Yeah.
Because of that.
There are still great comics. I still want to talk about comics on this channel. But if you ever wonder why doesn't Jay talk about comics more often, it's because of crap like this. This is most of what I have to say about it. Most of it is god-awful now.
Garbage.
A lot of it is people just spewing hate and anger and tribalism and their political views to make you believe something. It's not about a conversation. It's not about how, hey, I hold this piece, you hold this piece, let's put them together.
And it's not about telling a story either.
No, all it's about is like, hey, I hold this piece, I have the whole puzzle, F you. That's all it's about. There's never a coming together to solve common problems anymore in comics. And that was all of the criticism of society and everything that went on in previous political comments. Comics was intelligent, it had a purpose, and it wanted to make the world a better place. I truly believe that a lot of these people are very satisfied with the world being divided. It's more divided than it's ever been, and I'm tired of it.
I hate that too. I don't like how divided the world's gotten, and honestly, it makes me sad, and I hope that things can get better, but I kind of don't know if they will.
Yeah, me too. Let us know anything in the comments down below. If you agree, if you disagree, we're interested to hear what you have to say. Again, I always say it doesn't matter what you think as long as you're not a dick. I try to live by the same philosophy other than a few, jabs here and there that are jokes.
Unlike most people, we aren't divisive here.
Well, I mean, we are a little bit, but...
Are we?
Yeah, anytime I talk about anything, I actually believe it's divisive because people don't want to hear it. But, I'm interested to hear what the comments say. So let us know what you think down below. Be sure to check out all the links. We have a lot of ways that you can help support the channel if you're interested. We have a Patreon with a lot of behind-the-scenes videos. We have an Etsy shop with official merch. I've designed some of the bracelets over there, so has my fiance Jill.
I make earrings, too, and soon necklaces. So if you have a lovely lady in your life that you're trying to impress...
Or a stylish man.
I really want people to know that my jewelry's pretty androgynous.
I wear those bracelets
You
sometimes.
can wear a bracelet, yeah.
You know what? I'm saying right now, if you wear a bracelet, you're gonna get tons of puss.
No,
Imagine going to the beach. There is a hottie there, 11 out of 10. She is smoking hot. She's got a beta male boyfriend. You go up with your bracelet on, and she sees, oh my gosh, this man is so secure with his masculinity. I bet he has a big you-know-what. Woohoo! And she will go home with you. I can guarantee it right now. I can't actually guarantee that. Don't sue me. But it probably will happen.
I do want more men, though, especially younger men, to feel more secure in their masculinity.
So you're Jordan Peterson and a Nazi?
No, but like what I'm trying to say is if you want to wear a pretty bracelet, you should be able to, and you should feel like a strong, independent man while you're wearing it. And that's not just me trying to sell you something. That's just me trying to tell you, you can do whatever you want. And if somebody's going to make fun of you for it, then I will personally beat them up.
Yes, well, that just sounds a lot to me because you addressed young men in any way that you are Red Skull. So I am going to be making a comic book about you being Red Skull that will be coming out very soon. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for listening. If you're still here after 26 minutes, Jill's going to be mad. We were supposed to eat lunch. It was supposed to be 10 minutes.
I am starving.
Let us know. Have a great day. Stay shui. Leave a like, please.
Bye.
Helps the channel.